all we're basically trying to do is come up with a financial statement, right? There's really three parts to an income statement when we're modeling, right? Or when we're analyzing a deal, right? You're going to have your income, you're going to have your expenses, and then below that, you're going to have your debt service. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So income, expenses, debt service.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Only one of those three are going to be debatable, right? So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that, right? Usually, for the most part, especially if you start getting to higher level assets or assets with more doors, we're going to have a trailing 12 of the expenses, right? So we know what the expenses are.
Yeah.
Right. And then the debt, either we get a debt quote or we get a debt offer, in this case, from a seller who's willing to seller finance, right? Now, as you start speaking to me and other buyers, really the only debate is going to be how much income can the asset provide, right? Because it's going to be different exit strategies. Airbnb, long-term rental, short-term rental. Two of the three is not really up for debate, right? It is what it is. Why don't we just create a just very basic, there's no right or wrong answers. Let's just create a basic income statement, and I'll help you on the first step. And then the second step, I just want you to fill in and we'll talk through it. Okay. So in A1, just put income. And let's just put A10, let's put expenses. And then let's in A20 put debt.
Okay.
Right. So at the basic level, this is what I'm looking for.
That's all I can think of.
Perfect. Right. So let me start jogging your thoughts. Right. Let's pretend this is even single family. Right. Is it going to be fully occupied the whole year? Most likely.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you it another way. If it's a 100-unit building, is every unit going to be?
Oh, no, they'll come and go. You're right.
What do we call that? Vacancy, right?
Vacancy,
so
sorry.
Right, let's
but
just
that's
put
not
vacancy.
Income. Oh, so you want me to go down? This would be.
So let me challenge you on that, right?
Oh.
It's not income, right? Okay, so if I have, let's just say your rent. So let's do an exercise. Just give me a rent number. Let's just say go in C2 and let's just do 1,000 times 12. So 1,000 as in the rent I'm going to get a month times 12, which is the number of months, right? And then put an equal sign in the beginning of it so we can.
Yeah, I was going to say, oops. Yeah.
Okay.
Do I need to do sum anymore?
That's perfect.
There we go.
That's perfect. Right. So in this fictitious example, I'm receiving $12,000 a year, right? Analyzed, right? Now, what you just told me was that vacancy doesn't matter in income. So you're assuming I'm receiving all that. Now, if the property is vacant 2 months out the year, am I getting that $12,000?
No, you're not.
Right. So then we would have to subtract vacancy, right? So
I see.
So vacancy is important.
It's a factor of what the total might be.
Right. And this is where I say that income is going to be the only one that's kind of debatable.
Let's say 10. There might be 2 months. This is the worst case scenario, perhaps, right?
Or what you would show me is go back. So undo what you did.
I don't know where the undo is, but okay. I don't know where I put it.
Yeah, perfect. And let's just say you're going to put 5% vacancy, right? So just put 5%.
Here?
Yeah, just put 5%. And then under there in 4 and C4, multiply each other.
Oh, okay. Well, this is old school now. I'm like,
so that's not, it wouldn't be a sum, it would be a multiplication.
Oh, you're right. It's not adding. Sorry. Times.
There you go.
Okay. Now they did that.
Perfect. And then, so now subtract the 12,000 from the 600.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be, it would just be equal C2 minus C4.
Okay. I'm making it harder than it has to be.
Perfect. And I want to walk you through this because this is going to be important. It's going to help it stick, right? And then put in B5, right? Because when I send you my model, then you're going to understand what the hell it means, right? So now go in B4, B5 and put gross potential rent.
Gross potential, what'd you say?
Rent or income. Well, just put rent for now.
Like that?
Rent, RENT.
Oh, rent. Sorry. That's what I was
No, it's
saying.
okay. And then put
Sorry about
vacancy next to in B3 next to the 5%.
Vacancy. Okay.
Perfect. So now what this tells me is that if everything were to go well, right, I would receive $12,000 in rent, right?
Yep.
However, we're going to account for 5% vacancy, right? And this is important because this is how real estate people speak, right? So this would be income, right? Or half of it or a part of it. Now, have you ever lived in an apartment before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are some other ways that apartments get money, for example?
Like you have to apartment, I don't know, there's an HOA for apartment, or what do you do? Fees. They have fees for everything. Right?
Right. So an HOA and would be more of the housing committee or whatever getting money, right? But more specifically for an apartment, just I think it's the best way to think right now. Of course, if it's a single family, it's not going to have this, but I want you to understand from a 360 perspective,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So from an apartment, pet fees, for example.
Oh, pet fee. Yeah. Fees for everything.
Right.
Yeah. So you
Parking.
have like the deposit or whatever, right?
Right. Parking. Okay. What are some other ways to generate income?
Delivery, like if they take your deliveries from you, or if they have, whatever drop off, pick up.
So exactly. So why don't you just start filling that out for me and let's come up with some ideas, right? Because this would be that's all income for me. As you're speaking to a seller and you're developing a relationship, you might just ask, okay, even if it's a single family home and they don't have majority of these things, you might just have a conversation. Okay, great. Is there anything else you like charging your tenants for? Assuming now, again, if they're living there, obviously this has none of that. And then, that's a determination or that's a pitch you can make to the buyer. Hey, they're living there, but if you would turn this into an Airbnb, if you rent it out, here's some other ways that other people are making money in the area, right? That's the conversation you need to have with somebody like me.
Okay.
So now I know my total operating income with the net potential rent, right? And there's a lot of different ways to do it, right? I mean, I'm not going over loss to lease or anything concepts like that yet, but basically this is the gist, right? If you take my net potential rent in this case, which is just the gross potential rent minus the vacancy plus all my other income, that's how much money this property is going to bring, right? Now the next step is expenses, right? So now let's go over some expenses.
And wouldn't the expenses be the mortgage or the whatever?
Now boom. So now we're getting into debt, right? So
that's debt.
Mortgage would be debt, right? So and that has its own column for a lot of different reasons that we'll go into a little bit later.
I see what you're saying.
So before any debt, we're making $4,545. Now, here's where we now are on the same page, right? So now you understand where I'm looking at, and then now we go to your form. Now, this is a good deal, right? So now I'll go back to the debt service, right? And then change it from 5,000 to 2,000. Is this a good deal? Right. So now you understand the point, the importance of getting that debt information, because I cannot make a decision unless I have the full picture. Boom. So does the basically underwriting 101
totally gets it.
So say that again. So you offered what and it was what?
It was too low. I offered 350.
Okay. Perfect.
Because I was only offering it on land. Keep in mind, that's all my coaches trained me on. And they said, we don't buy houses, so buy the land. I'm like, okay, well, he doesn't want to.
Perfect. So I'm glad you said that, right? Because this is going to be a theme when it comes to what we do, right? You said it, I'm going to drill it home. You offered this and it was too low. You offered this and it was too low. When it comes to what we do, it's always going to be too low. He doesn't like to give the offer. He likes to get the offer. So now we can tell them, that's too high. We can't do it. Gotcha. And now you're shifting the control.
Yeah.
Do you see
I
what I'm
see,
saying?
I
So
see, I see, I see.
so
Yeah.
here, seller kind of wants us to propose what type of seller finance deal we would do, right? And guess what?
Yep.
As soon as we do that, he's going to say it's too low, down payment's too low, payment is too low. It's not going to work, right? You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
now that you understand underwriting, now it goes into a sales perspective, right? Because underwriting is really kind of where we're trying to go, right? Because you'll understand what we look for in a deal. You know, we want 30% cash on cash. We'll have that conversation in a little bit. But that's basically, you understand that you have an Excel sheet where you have to make it work. Now, that's the end goal. Before that, you have negotiating in order to get the numbers that make it work, right? And then before that, you have prospecting, right? So you had the prospecting down. I know you're going to get a lot of action. We just had a conversation about underwriting and what it takes to make the deal work. Now it's the fun part of the, kind of ninja negotiating stuff, right?
Yeah.
So really in this situation, right, when you're speaking to a seller like this, this is a word track, I would say, or, word track that Pace has shared is, you just be, upfront and honest, right? And you say, something of the sort like, hey, what I realize is that ultimately, Mr. Seller, you're the bank, right? And if you're not happy with the terms, right? And let me take a step back, right? Before I get into the word track, you just have to be okay that sometimes this negotiating and sales process is going to look a little bit like a car dealership, right? But instead of you going in and out, it's going to be
there.
Right. It's you going to, hey, listen, we might not get this done on this call, right? So you don't have to necessarily always feel like you
I have to come back with something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's okay. Right. We encourage that. Right now, of course, as you get more skilled, you'll be able to get a lot of information quicker. But like, it's okay. Right. It's just going to be a little bit less efficient. Right. But hey, I have to present this to my, investment committee, my buyers, whatever you have to say. Right. You can just put it on a third party, blame it on somebody else. Like I got to speak to my manager, right? You just take that approach, right? Because guess what? You'll still sell cars that way. It may be annoying, it may take a long time, but you'll still sell. Or in this case, you'll still sell properties this way, right? So I want you to picture it like that, right? Where when you're buying at a car dealership, or in my case, when I was selling at a car dealership, it never really happened where I presented the first numbers and they said
it's perfect.
Right. No, this like literally I'm expecting you to say something about this paper. Right. So you have to have that mentality that when you're speaking with these sellers, that it's going to be 3, 4, 5 conversations, right? Especially in the beginning. Right. So you just have to go in there knowing when you go into this conversation, you're probably going to have to set it up for another conversation. Right. So now, does that make sense? Like that, does that kind of just mentality, does that make sense? Like, hey, I know he's going to say something about this.
He's going to say something.
This is their that's going to be their biggest investment. This is literally what they have, right? And they're not going to be happy unless they're literally getting foreclosed, right? If they're not in foreclosure, it's literally going to be a back and forth, and you just have to understand that, right?
Fair, yeah.
And accept that. Now, with that being said, the reason why you're okay with the back and forth is because if you give them any number, they're not going to be happy. So you should just avoid doing.
You're waiting for their number to come out, and then we're not happy.
Exactly. So, here's what happens behind the glass door when I speak to the manager, right? Because like everybody thinks there's so much going on, but it's really not. This is what my manager just telling me.
You guys already have the parameters, right? You're already
we already know, right? But here's what really the conversation would happen between the salesperson and the sales manager. And this is the conversation I'm going to have with you. What I'm going to tell you is get a commitment, right? And what that basically means is I need to know, what does a deal look like to them? Right? I need to know what a deal looks like to them. So you're gonna hear that a lot from me specifically, not Pace, because Pace doesn't have a car sales experience. But I think it's so relatable and so tangible. I'm gonna say, hey, listen, on this sheet you sent me, I don't know where a deal is. Like I don't know where they're gonna buy. I don't know. Now, here's the thing: 9 times out of 10, where they're at is not gonna be a deal for us.
Right. Okay.
But you're beginning the negotiations now.
Right.
Until you get that commitment, there is no negotiation, right? You're to me on this deal, you're still prospecting, which is fine. But until they tell me where a deal is at for them, then we can make a decision if that's a deal for us. And if it's not, we'll go through the spreadsheet and I'll tell you where a deal is for us and what you have to manipulate to get there. And then you go back to them and work on those items.
I gotcha. Okay. So
that's how this is
to
going
the point where I have his number, right?
Exactly.
And then it's in
Now,
our
now the
court to
negotiation starts.
decide. Okay.
Right. So now the negotiation starts. Once you have their number, now we're in a negotiation
So
because
I
you're gonna
got
bring
as
it.
far as, because 350 was low, he said, I know it's worth $1 million. I'm willing to go down, but not 50% down. So I'm thinking in my head, he's somewhere between 650 and
So
750.
perfect. So
Right.
so let's
Nothing
talk
is
about
there.
let's talk about negotiations, right? And I'm going to give you a
Okay.
lot of word tracks where you can write them down, or I'll send you the recording.
Yeah.
And you can make
I
your
will.
mistakes. So perfect, right? So he says, "Hey, I'm willing to go down, but not a lot down." Boom. He just
Enough.
opened up. He's open, right?
Yep.
So now this is what I would say. Is I would say, what's his name?
David
Hey,
Hill.
David. I totally understand. That's a lot, to drop, right? Which is why I typically don't like to give offers because as an investor, Mr. David, you have to understand, I have people who are giving me money to get good returns. So, Mr. David, if it was up to me, my price would be $1, 1 cent, 0% interest with no down payment because I could turn around and I can sell it for that million you want, and my investors are going to be happy, right? So that's why I really don't start with my number because you're never going to be happy with it. So, Mr. David, this is what I want you to do. And it might not be on this call, but I want to plant seeds. So we can have a call maybe in 3 days, maybe a week, and we can kind of discuss this. But what I want to know, Mr. David, is what down payment you would like, or what down payment will make you comfortable. What's the purchase price that's going to make you comfortable? And what's the monthly payments that's going to make you comfortable? And then I'll put that in my buyer's court, or I'll put that in my investment committee's court so they can make a decision if this works for them. But if you're going to be financing us, Mr. David, it's my duty to make sure you're getting into a good long-term relationship. And I don't want you committing to anything that you're not happy with. So instead of me giving you terms you don't like or something that you would consider a lowball offer, why don't we reschedule this call? You tell me what's comfortable for you. I'll put that in my investment committee's court and see if that's a good deal for them.
Okay.
And then you reschedule the call. Because he's like to get his mind.
Now
right,
he's thinking. Right? Now he's like, okay, all these things. What am I comfortable with? And if he's the financer, is one of the questions an interest rate, or do we leave that to our?
So perfect. So I probably wouldn't bring it up, but this is where having a buyer is important because you have the confidence. Now, what I would say is typically my investment committee, my buyer, the people I work with, they typically don't do interest rate because a lot of the times they're paying a lot more than any investment would, a lot more than market value. So they're already paying a lot, right? So, so typically they don't, right? But again, we're in a long-term relationship. So you just tell me what you're comfortable with, right? You don't want to over negotiate. You don't want to lose the deal, right? You don't want him to ghost you, right? You would just say, hey, typically they don't because they're paying a lot more than market value. They're paying a lot more. However, again, Mr. David, we're getting a long-term relationship. So if that's something that you must have, we typically don't like doing it. But again, I just want to know what is comfortable for you. I just want to know what's comfortable for you. And let me put it in their court. Let them decide.
Okay.
Right? Because guess what? Well, whatever he tells us, guess what? Whatever he tells us is not good. Now we flip the script. Whatever he tells us, guess what? It's not going to be good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what he says, because even if he gives us 50% off, we're going to want 60% off, right? Like literally whatever he says, now we're going to say we don't want it.
We're in control. It's on our court. So
right. So we said that if according to these numbers, right, it's a good deal, right? And that's half true, right? It's a cash flow deal, right? So now when I say that is if we put $1 million down to get a $2,500 cash flow, is that a good deal?
No,
probably not, right? Because I can just put that $1 million in the S&P, get 10%, right? And I'm at 100,000 as opposed to 2 times 12, which is 24, right? So I can literally do nothing, have no renovation, have no risk, put in the S&P, get $100,000 as opposed to this deal, right? So
yeah, but you don't get appreciation or tax benefits, right?
This is true. That's besides the point. I mean,
Okay.
true, right? And that's definitely now we're going into a more advanced conversation. But I'm just showing you
Okay.
as far as risk, right? Like,
That's true.
yeah, I might not get it, but even if you add the depreciation on top of the 24,000, does it still equal that 10,000,
Yeah.
$100,000 gain, right?
Right.
So
No.
not so,
No.
but the point is, right?
You're
The
right.
gist is the money down is going to also determine if this is a good deal or not.
That's true. I see what you're saying. So you want as
Right.
least money down as possible, the most finance that still provides a cash flow.
Exactly, and then that's what's called cash on cash return.
Mm.
That's all that means, right? Is when I put this down, how much am I going to getting? And what a typical investor is going to do, and you'll probably, as you speak to other sellers in states that are outside Paces buy box, you'll hear stuff like, I can literally put this in S&P, do nothing, and get a better return than that.
Yeah.
Right. And then this is where sellers saying, I want a $200,000 down payment.
Yeah.
Right. You have to say, okay, great. Well, then, maybe let's just list this, right? Maybe, let me connect you with the, licensed real estate attorney. Maybe, the buyers I have are not for you, but I'd be more than happy to connect you with the real estate agent that might be able to accomplish this. Right. Because, that's not going to work. Right.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Right. And then maybe you have a real estate friend that you can do business that way where you get, kind of fees that way. Right. Outside of,
Right.
Because we're going to be one part of your business. Right. You're going to have a lot of tools in your tool belt. You're going to wholesale, you're going to do creative deals, and you're going to refer to agents, right? And I'm only going to be a portion of that, but I'll help you, right? So now in G, I'm going to give you all of the components, right? So number one is going to be cash to seller, right? / down payment. So cash to seller / down payment.
Okay.
Arrears, right? So number two is going to be arrears / liens.
Okay. Oh. So is that the mortgage too, or besides the mortgage?
No, so this would be something
Besides.
if somebody's like in pre-foreclosure because they haven't paid a couple things, or if somebody's on a tax delinquent list, we would need to catch them up and get them reinstated, right? So that way we're not, in pre-foreclosure, right? If that's the lead that you have, right? Now, the third component is going to be cost to acquire the property, right? / wholesale fee / finder fee.
Oh, okay. Wholesale finders. Okay.
Perfect. And then after that is going to be closing costs. And then closing costs. And then after that's going to be renovation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Maintenance. And I think this is what you meant by PITI, right? Is the only way the PITI is going to really be useful to us in the cash down is that if we have to renovate it, we still have to pay that out, right? So maintenance, what I would put is / holding costs / 2x PITI.
Oh. Okay.
And then last one is going to be marketing, right? So for example, Airbnb, or if we're going to do long-term hold, which I'm not focused on, I'm just focused on Airbnb. So marketing the property, right? So let's go back to yours, right? So assignment fee was good, PITI. Mortgage balance was the reason why this is incorrect is because typically it's just like PITI, right? Where only way the mortgage balance is going to affect our cash down is the amount of times we have to pay it until we renovate the property to get up to speed, right? Because typically we're going to take it over. We're not going to pay it off, right? So that's why the PITI and the mortgage balance.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
okay.
So delete all that.
Okay.
And then in G9, why don't you put the asterisk sign, so shift 8. Just put pace looking for 30% cash on cash.
30%.
Right. That's what we're looking for, right? Ideally. That's how you know if you even get me on before a call, right? You have everything figured out, right? You know what the income statement looks like. You know all the numbers. You're gonna run it yourself. You're gonna say, hey, Andrew, I think I have a 30% cash on cash. And then it's gonna be up to us to do our due diligence. And I'm gonna be like, hey, I see where you went. I'm a little bit more conservative on maybe
Something.
the vacancy, or maybe, I think the expense is gonna be a little bit more, right?
Mhm.
Then we can have a discussion on why we don't see the same way, right? But now we'll get there,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So for example, let's just do some crazy numbers, right? Let's just say this guy wants 100K down. So in H1, put 100,000. And actually, why don't we do this? Take Pace is looking for 30% cash on cash. Why don't we drag that down one, and then under marketing, why don't we put total entry fee? No, so
Here.
yeah, so exactly. So total entry fee, and then just drag the Pace looking for 30% cash on cash. Just drag that down a little, one more.
I see.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now let's just fill this out, right? That way, because this is things that you're gonna do, right? You're gonna, as you're speaking to the client, you're doing your discovery, you're gonna find out all this information, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what a broker does, right? So
Mhm.
so boom, so cost to acquire, right? Whatever fee you want, right? And now this goes into
Okay.
your question: how do you wholesale?
I don't even
How do
know.
you how do you wholesale? But
Right.
how do you wholesale a creative deal, right? This is your answer,
Yeah.
right? Because you're baking in
Yeah.
your number into that entry fee, and then it's going to be up to the buyer to determine the cash on cash if that works,
Mhm.
right? Because guess what? You as the broker, you're gonna have, if you still want that fee, you're gonna have to either negotiate the money down less, so keep your fee.
Yep.
And if you can't,
Oh,
then right, that's the value you're bringing to a buyer, right? And then obviously there's something to be worked out, but that's how you, regardless of the buyer, this is how you bake in your fee
mhm. I see.
right
And then
here.
I can figure out if there's more or less room there
Right, because
or
if we're
not.
still getting
Okay.
30, if we're still getting 30% cash on cash, and you're getting $20,000, like
Yeah,
I'll
you
tell you
don't.
this, on the apartment deals that like I was doing at the firm I was at, like brokers are getting paid 300,000 or 400,000 on deals. Like what, like we legitimately don't care. Like the value
Yeah.
for us is Pace needs
This.
depreciation, right? Because he's doing a lot of fix and flipping, and he wants cash flow, right? So
Yep.
that's what he cares about: the depreciation that he can write off on taxes and the cash flow to make sure the
Yep.
property sustains, right?
Okay.
When you're speaking to buyers, they literally don't care how much the broker makes.
Yeah.
Literally, like they
Wow.
don't give a shit, right? It's up to you to
Yeah.
negotiate the deal, though.
Yeah. Okay.
You right, because the buyer's going to want a cash on cash, and then the seller is going to want a specific money down, right? So
Mhm.
where your value is in the marketplace is to balance those two.
The middle.
um
Yeah.
exactly, to balance those two wants and needs, right? That's what
Yep.
these two people want. You're in the middle. Your job is to balance that, and then
Okay.
in your way, you're baking in your fee. That's how you make the money,
Okay.
right?
That's
So
cool.
now,
Yeah.
do you
So how do
understand?
I
Now you
figure
understand.
this out if he's the seller finance and he
So
owns it?
so here's what you can't until you get the debt, right? Until you structured what that debt looks like and what that payment looks like, right? There's
Mm.
no way I can calculate cash on cash. So I don't know if this is a good deal because there's so much missing information.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Now you're seeing when I get these deals from students, like,
Yeah.
or when Molly's asking these questions, is because in order for us to evaluate if it's a good deal or not, and to us, a good deal is 30% cash on cash, unless I have the PITI. Do you see how much times debt is coming into this equation? Debt is coming in on the down payment, and debt is coming in on the cash flow. So that's a major part that's missing in all of this.
I hear
Why do you
you.
think there's so much banks, right? It's because they play a big role on determining if this is a good deal, right? And this is why people will call 10 lenders in the traditional way, right? Like, traditional
Yeah.
kind of financing. That's why people will call 10 banks to get a deal, to get a structure that they want or a payment that
It's
they
gonna
want,
work.
because it affects the deal so much, right? So let's just say hypothetically, he wanted let's just say $3,000 down payment, right? So equals 3,000 times two.
But that's up here. That's I already did
No, so
100,000.
remember, so let's just say we're going to renovate the property, right? So in order for us to renovate, are we going to have Airbnbs while we're renovating the property?
No. So
Right.
so that's the cost.
We have to pay
So I
that monthly
see. So
payment to him.
already we have 12,000
There you
as a
go. So
cost.
now you're looking at what Pix is looking at. Like, okay, like not only does he want 10,000, but I'm going to have to pay 12,000. Well, let's just put 6,000, right? Let's just say, so you're putting the cash flow
1 month.
from the girlfriend.
I was doing
So,
2 months because
yeah.
like I was doing 2 months of maintenance, PITI.
So how much is the PITI? Oh, too much of maintenance. So why don't we go through this? So the way to actually do this is go to what was it, like C29? So scroll down. So do equals. So that number right there. So that's what you would times by 2. You see that? See, now you see why the income statement is important, because literally you have your expenses right there. But that's what we're gonna have to pay, regardless if we're getting money or not. So you would do equals C30 times 2.
Okay.
And this is why financial it's crazy. I'll tell you a story, Sandra. So when I got the job at Clear Capital where I was at, I had to do literally a 3-hour test on Excel. Like they gave me all type of questions, all type of tests, all type of scenarios that I had to do before they hired me, because this is the work that an analyst does, right?
Yeah.
And then you as a broker, this is things that you're going to have to do, not only negotiate, but also do the numbers, right? And this numbers. Like that's the work, right? So I had to do a 3-hour test before I would even get. I literally had 3 interviews, and then I had to do a 3-hour test.
Okay.
Because like,
and
like,
in this case, wow, I don't know how you did that. That's awesome.
Right.
In this case, wouldn't I add 2,000 then too?
Mortgage.
We added this.
There you go.
But we didn't add 2 times this.
There you go. So you would do C30 plus C36 times 2. And then you put those in parentheses. There you go. That's Excel knowledge. You have to do that. Perfect.
Oops. Yeah. Plus C36.
But put those in parentheses.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
And then, there you go.
Okay. You had to do, so you had to be almost an Excel wizard as well as a
have to be
a math.
Have to be.
There's a lot of math.
Have to be. You have to be, right? And then on top of that, why your job is going to be hard is because you have to know that, plus you have to negotiate.
Yeah.
Right. So now go to the total entry fee and equal sum.
Mm-hmm.
And then tab, and then add all those up. Perfect. So now our down payment is 143. So now go to 30% cash on cash, do equals the money that we're making. So do parentheses. Go to scroll down to the cash flow. Cash flow after debt service, right? Click that, times it by 12.
Here?
Yep, because you're going to annualize it, right? Because we're not doing monthly cash flow, we're doing annual cash flow. Close parentheses. Divided by the down payment. No, do the total entry fee rather.
Oops. Oh, here, all of that's down payment.
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
exactly.
So H8, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's divided by the entry fee. So we're not 30%. Okay,
perfect. So scroll. So now turn that to a percentage real quick so we can see. Obviously, it's gonna be 21.3, but just go ahead, turn that to a percentage. It'll probably be under home, and then So and then right there on the general, you'll have that percentage. Perfect. Boom. Right. So now, guess what? You get a commitment. You're able to fill in the model. You fill in the model, right? Now you understand the projections that your buyer wants. And now it's up to us to either accept a 21% annual cash on cash, right? Or give you a counter offer to bring back to the seller.
But I can play with these numbers and
right.
see.
And now, right. There you go, right?
Right. That doesn't do much. It's this that does the most, I'm guessing, right?
Exactly. Now you understand, right, why that down payment to the seller, right? And you probably, for you, right, would want to touch your fee last, right? And see, okay,
yeah, but big impact would be the down payment and maybe how much renovation. It could be a lot more, right. Like I was saying.
So here's the thing now. I can tell you, and you can watch videos in the Sub 2 mentorship about Paige saying down payment kills deals or we're not a buyer. But until you put yourself in our shoes and understand why, now you can say it with confidence. Like you can literally say it with confidence because like, we're buying 30% cash on cash. This guy's asking for 200 and you can literally say with confidence, hey, I don't think we're a buyer for this deal because you're like, I don't want to waste my time with you anymore, bro. Right now, again, if you have a different buyer, maybe you negotiated maybe a less cash on cash, that's fine. But now if we're going to be the primary buyer, you're like, this guy's fucking wasting my time, right? Hey, listen, I don't think we're going to be a buyer for you. And then when sellers hear that confidence in your voice, hold on, wait, so where would you be a buyer at? Listen, I want this to be a long-term relationship. And like I said, if that's where you're happy at, I'll put that in my buyer's, court and see where, and see if they can back into that number, because maybe they can see something that I can't see right now. But instead of me trying to lower your down payment, let me bring it to my investment committee and let's set up a call for a week.
Right.
Right. And now you're not desperate. Right. And now you can say, hey, but I'll be honest with you. I'm speaking to a lot of sellers and they have a lot of brokers that they work with. So they're seeing a lot of deals. Right.
Yeah.
And, they can, typically sellers ask for, $5,000 to $10,000 down. You're asking for 8 times that. And we still have to renovate it and we still have to do this. So if you were them, how would you make money on the deal as an investor? You put in their court. Like, can you tell me, Mr. Seller, how you would make money on this deal?
Yeah, it's either that or it's just somebody wants to buy a home, right? I mean, but if he's selling to an investor.
And if that's fine, and this is what I'm saying, hey, Mr. David, if that's the case, I'll be more than happy to link you up with my agent.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And now you're negotiating like a motherfucker. Like now you're leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. You want an investor or do you want, well.
I'm here to help. Right?
Yeah,
I'm here to help
awesome.
you, David. I'm not here to sell you. I'm not here to pitch you. I'm literally here to figure out what you need. And if I'm not the solution, that's fine, right? Maybe that's fine. I'll help you find a solution, and maybe in a month or 2 or a year from now, you have a friend that you can refer to me. But I'm not trying to do anything that you're not. This is all part of negotiation, right? And you can say this because at the current numbers, it's not a deal because you put in your model and you're like, this is not going to work.
Yep.
So now you don't have a fear of losing out because already know, like, I'm going to speak with Andrew and this is not a deal.
Yep. And there may be others that are okay with 25%. We don't know how close that is, but I see what you're saying. Like, I know that's knowing your buyer, right?
Format, because not only am I going to have to pay their debt, but I'm going to have to pay the debt I raised, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if I have to put 60 down payment, so just put in B17, put that down payment. So let's just say I had to raise $60,000.
That's the down.
Oh, it's view only, so you have to make a copy. Yeah, you have to make a copy.
Yeah, sorry.
Up.
Your Excel, right?
That works. Yeah, that works. So my debt is important in a sense that you need to understand, like, okay, you might have a 45% cash on cash and I have a 35 because you didn't count for the debt that I have to pay for because we're not going to put that money in ourselves, right? We're going to raise money from students and things like that. So put like $60,000, for example. It should have the formula, but just go to interest only payment and then times that by 8%.
That cell
equals B17 times B18.
Yeah.
Right. And then go in there real quick and then put that in parentheses and just divide it by like 12.
I see.
Right. So now so that's just another, like, so you're just gonna have to put that. You see, go to the right hand side where it says private lender payment. To the right hand side. So scroll all the way to the right. To the right. So scroll to the right. You're scrolling down. Scroll to the right. That's left. Scroll to the right. So go to my income statement. Boom. Do you see my income statement? So scroll up.
Yep.
Right, that's my month one pro forma or income statement, right? So now you put that 400. You put that 400 in that box.
In which one? The net?
It should be J18, where it says private lender payment equity raise. So up to.
Oh, okay. Oh, equity raise. Okay.
So now all this box right here is my income statement.
I see.
The one that you built out.
First one. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Wow. And then when I fill that in, I get to come up with my cash on cash return.
I see. And that's just, we didn't do that because we weren't thinking but if Pace gets the loan of the down payment, that's where this is coming from.
So go back to the one that you built out real quick. So that entry fee, Pace is not going to put his 68 grand of his own money.
He's going to get a loan for that at 8%.
No, he's going to get private money, right? So like friends, family, students, people that know him, he's going to raise it and then he's going to give them an 8% return, right? So you're gonna get,
Oh,
so he's raising debt. Not only he's raising debt for the down payment,
yeah. And
right?
so really his return though, then isn't this. You have to
So
factor in.
yeah, so now you're thinking. So let's go back to debt, right? So let's go back to the debt section. Where now instead of mortgage, he has mortgage and he has the equity payments. So under debt, no, you would put it as a different line
Oh,
item because those are two
okay,
different
I see.
receivers of the money, right?
Uh-huh. Okay, you're right.
Equity raise payment. There you go. Equity debt, equity. There we go.
Ah, and
Right.
so it's
And
the
that,
68 times 8% is just
so
a
do it. I want you to
general.
do it. I want you to do it. So these are the type of
Okay.
tests I had to do when I applied for that firm. So now you go equal, right? You go equal to the debt payment, and you would
Equals
times that.
H8 time, oh no, yeah, times 8%, right?
Divided by 12.
Times, can I do 8.08? Is that how it's
Yeah,
easy?
that's fine. Yeah.
Do I have to do parentheses though, and then divide it by
You
12?
don't. I like to do it, but you don't because it's PEMDAS, right? So since equal and since multiplication and division are in the same kind of balance, as long as you have them in the
Nice.
same order. So boom. So now our actual, there you go, right? So now we're paying that a month. Now
But
the
that
cash flow is
didn't,
right because right. So why don't we, because we just built it out wrong. So why don't we take cash flow at the debt service? Let's copy that and let's push it down a little bit.
oh, because we need, yeah.
Right. Because what we don't have is the total debt payment, right? So that should be equals, right? So total debt payment equals the 2,000 plus the 453. Now you're turning into an analyst. Now you're turning into a full-blown analyst, right? This is the work, right? So equals the sum.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And now you have to fix the formula, right? So go to the formula, press F2.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, press F2 on your keyboard. So we have so net operating income, and then bring the debt down to the total debt payment, not just the mortgage. So drag that down, or you can go to F2. So go to F2.
Yeah, sorry. And then
minus the 6 and just put 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom. Now go to cash on cash return. Now the cash on cash return, if we built it out correctly, should automatically just change. So scroll up.
37.
Boom, 37. Right? Boom. Now scroll to the left. That is an income statement. That is great work. We have our income, we have our expenses, and we have our total debt. That is how we analyze the deal.
He's really making at least 30% that way. Okay. Okay.
Boom. And you accounted for everything, right? So now you have the mortgage payments, right? And guess what? What if it was a hybrid deal, right? And they had a subject to, right? So let's scroll down. What would you do? I'm not going to answer it for you. Now, let's just say this is a hybrid deal. How would you change the model? Because this is what you're going to have. This is the work you're going to have to do on your own, is sometimes create a model for me to look at, right? So if there was a subject to deal in it, right, where would you put the subject to and where would you put that payment?
Okay, mortgage seller.
So subject to, so let's take a step back, right? Just for video purposes, is subject to income?
Oh, I wouldn't be. It would be the mortgage. I would. Oh.
So it would be a mortgage, exactly. So do you see why mortgage and seller finance payment should be on different lines?
Yeah, I see they should be, because the mortgage is what I would pay for the subject to, and the seller finance.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So from now that we're nitpicking, yes, we should never have mortgage slash seller finance for the two different things.
I see. So that could be the mortgage, and okay, I'll put mortgage down here and leave the other one, but I see what you're saying. And that's seller finance, because the mortgage is do we want to put sub to, or does that, because then it's clear, or is everyone know?
So subject to is just a legal mechanic for us taking over the debt, right? Okay. So this actually
we would know then.
Okay. Sub to is just me taking it over, right? That's all that means, right? So now let's put mortgage. Let's just say he has a $800 mortgage payment.
$800, yeah.
Oh, you see how the formula changed. So let's go to total debt, press F2 real quick. So go to go down, go to C39, press F2. So you built out the formula the right way. See how you added it and it automatically changed it for you? So
Yep.
now you built it the right way. Boom. And then
So
let's
now
go here.
this went, yep, and now it went down.
23. So now let's go to the spreadsheet. Do you see how you not answering a question makes it impossible for me to analyze a deal? It's literally the difference between a 37 cash on cash and a 23 cash on cash.
Yeah. Oh my
Right.
gosh.
But now that you see the importance when a seller, right? Because guess what? You get on the phone and the seller's going to be like, hey, listen, I don't want to tell you my PITI, or I don't want to tell you my equity, right? And they're gonna say shit like that to you, but you have the confidence though, and then you can just say, hey, listen, I understand that might be a a seemingly personal question or what have you, but let me explain to you why. Let me explain to you why I'm asking that. And then you can slow them down, explain to them a scenario, and then get the information. Because what you can't accept is I don't want to tell you that, because if you don't want to tell me that, I can't find a buyer for you.
Right.
So let me explain to you why I'm asking that, and if you want to set up another phone call or what have you, whatever. But you in your head should know if I don't get the information, then I don't have a buyer.
Right.
Because I'm not buying a deal unless I have that. Right. And
it's
then when
funny,
you lock up a deal.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Andrew. I was gonna say I've seen multifamily performas and they have everything that I didn't even know how to read. So that's why, like, it's so detailed down to.
It's funny because I bet you after this call, when you read it, you're gonna understand everything that it says now.
Yeah, now I will. Yeah, I didn't really get it. Okay, and then I got this quick little deal analyzer.
All multifamily is broken up just like that. You're gonna have your income, you're gonna have your expenses, and you're gonna have your debt. Right? You might have a section for capital expenses. All capital expenses are renovations. That's all capital expenses are. Capital expenses means renovation that you're not going to have to do every single year, right? So multifamily use all these fancy words, but you already know the concepts. It's literally income, expenses, right? Now, one section that now that we're kind of going into it though, one section that you might forget is that we forgot was capital expense reserves. That's or what Pace calls war chest money, right? So why don't we create a section
go? 30 expenses? You need to account for like a percentage.
Hey, there we go. See, you understand when you read it, a multifamily pro forma now, you're gonna understand it, what it means.
Yeah.
Right?
You need to like
that's
put
it.
Away.
So why create a row above total operating expenses?
Yeah.
And then just put like CapEx reserves. And then so just put capital X, CapEx. I want you to use the jargon.
Yeah, it's okay. Reserve.
Right, because when you kind of bundle it. Right, CapEx reserves. Right. Just do equals. Let's just put like 10% of the gross potential rent times.
Should I do 0.10 then? 0.10 times.
It'll work out the same way. So times. So scroll up.
Times this.
No. So scroll up and just put gross potential rent.
Okay, so times C2.
C2, exactly. Or you could have just clicked it. Either way works. But here, boom, right? So now you fix your operating expenses formula because it's broken, I think, because it didn't change. So go to the total operating expenses, click F2. Did it work? So it's missing CapEx reserves,
so 30.
Right? So exactly.
Yeah, like it didn't change. Okay.
So scroll up.
Make sure. Okay. Yep.
12% cash on cash. Right.
Whoa.
But here's the thing, and this is why speaking to your buyers is so important, because guess what? Let's just say Cody or Pace have two different businesses, right? Let's just say Pace does a 5% CapEx reserve and Cody does a 15% CapEx reserve. Do you see how that changes your numbers?
Pace.
Right. So guess what? How can you lock up anything and bring it to a buyer if you don't understand how they buy deals?
Right. You're right.